Hawaii, we are getting fat, including myself. I admit that over the past year or so, I definitely gained some weight, ate too much going out and didn't exercise enough. But you know what? It wasn't just me. I think sometimes there's just misconception that everyone in Hawaii is young and thin and healthy, and there's definitely people like that. But according to some recent numbers, they said that the obesity rate in adults jumped to 42% from 20% in 2019, and that's a little high if you ask me, and other numbers say it's about 25%, but whatever the number is. And I'm not here to shame anyone, just to point out that it's kind of hard to not get fat in Hawaii. So in this video, I want to talk about 3 reasons why I think it's pretty easy to get fat in Hawaii, as well as kind of explain towards the end about how I actually lost some weight over the past few months without really exercising, and how that journey has kind of been. By the way, thanks for noticing. Definitely lost a little weight down here and trying out the new t-shirt. My belt's feeling a little bit better, pants are feeling a little bit better, my watch is feeling a little bit better. So overall, it's pretty great. You okay, bro? The first reason is the food that we eat here in Hawaii. If you think that we're just here eating fruits and all this tropical stuff, most people don't eat that. And even if we did, we'd probably find ways to fill it with cream or cover it with chocolate to make it totally unhealthy. Typically, Hawaii foods are very salty or very sweet. For breakfast, we're eating Spam, Vienna sausage, Portuguese sausage, eggs and rice. Very loud motorcycle. And I totally get it. Food is just part of the culture and people in Hawaii love to eat. But I think it actually comes down to portion size. In Hawaii, we're kind of taught quantity of food is just as important, if not more important, than the quality of the food. So typically you'll have 2 options, right? You'll have a mini size plate lunch or a regular size. And the mini size, that's probably like your normal size that you want to be eating. But then for just $2 more, maybe $1 more, you could get the regular size plate lunch. And so you're thinking to yourself, why wouldn't I just get the regular size with the extra scoop of rice and just a little bit more meat and sauce? And of course, I'm speaking in generalities here. Not everyone eats the way that I'm describing, but I think a lot of people who grew up here, they tend to be eating that way. And Hawaii also has a lot of sweet food. We have pastries and cookies and sweet teas and shave ice, and that's just a recipe for diabetes. But you can only blame the food so much here, because the reality is it's the access to the quality food that's the hard thing, because food is so expensive here. I mean, if you got a lot of money, of course you can access really good quality and healthy food, because you got Whole Foods, you got down to earth, you have places like this farmer's market. But the thing is, if you don't have a lot of money, access to that food becomes a little trickier. Things like fast food or a lot of the unhealthier choices are they just happen to be more affordable. So why would you spend that much more money on something if it's not necessarily worth it? So the thing is, I just wish it was cheaper to eat healthier. I remember there was this time that I wanted to eat a healthy plate lunch at L&L, and by healthy, I mean they gave you brown rice, they put green salad instead of mac salad, and I think they might have cooked the chicken a little bit differently so it wasn't as unhealthy. But the thing was, I remember standing there and the healthy plate lunch was $2 more than the regular plate lunch. So already that disincentivizes trying to go ahead and eat healthy here. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yes, regular.
You okay? Aw, you okay? And so as I say, I hope we can find ways to make it more affordable, to grow things, to support our farmers, so that when we come to places like this, it's not that expensive, it's more accessible. Because in the state, I think we do a wonderful job of talking about growing local, right? We don't want to import as much food, but the reality is that we do, and we have to find ways to incentivize and make it easier for people to want to grow their own food and then sell their own food and be able to make a living. The second reason I think it's so hard to not get fat in Hawaii is just our eating habits that we have here. Speaking for myself, I'm a huge snacker, and it's been a problem for years. I love popcorn and chips and kakimochi and all those little treats that you buy at like the crack seed shop. And I think the real culprit in snacking is boredom and stress, which are not great reasons or excuses. It's just, I find that those are the reasons that just happen to come up. And you may be wondering, why are you so stressed? You live in Hawaii. Well, I can say that after working all day and driving through traffic, it's pretty typical to then be really stressed out. But I think the worst eating habit is eating big dinners late. And I know there's that saying, right, that you should eat like a king in the beginning, and as the course of the day goes on, you eat less and less food. But I think that actually is reversed here in Hawaii, and sometimes to the extremes. And again, I can just speak for myself. When I was growing up, we'd have to wake up so early to beat traffic. So there was really no time for a big breakfast. There was hardly any time for any breakfast at all. We get to school or you got to get to work and you're just hungry, right? And so what ends up happening is, because you're so hungry, you end up just wishing for food or snacking for food until it's lunchtime. And then when it's lunchtime, you kind of eat a lot because you didn't eat anything for breakfast. And of course, we have the famous Kanak attack, or the food coma, because you just ate way too much food, and then by the time you get to the afternoon again, you're all tired. What would typically happen is I then get home, and because my parents, when I was younger, didn't get home from work until a lot later, we didn't eat dinner until later. So I'd snack until they got home. And again, then when it came time for dinner, I was so hungry. I was eating more out of, I guess you can call it, desperation, and not really because I wanted to enjoy the food. I was just so hungry from that day. So you're talking big scoops of rice, extra meat, shoyu and sauce all over, and that's not a great eating habit to have, but thankfully, as an adult now, I don't necessarily have that. Definitely gotta thank my beautiful and wonderful wife for that. She makes amazing dinners, so gotta give her a big shout out there. And the third reason is just plain lack of exercise. I mean, Hawaii, admit it, we don't really like to walk. And I know you got the aunties and uncles who walk around the block at like 4 a.m. every morning, or you got that one walking group that goes to the mall and they just circle around forever. But for the most part, I don't think exercise and walking really fits into the Hawaii lifestyle for most people. In 2019, Consumer Protect reported that about 24% of adults in Hawaii get zero physical activity in leisure time. Instead, we love to drive. For some people, a 5 to 10 minute walk to pick up lunch is too much. Like, they'd rather get in the car, go the long way around the block, battle everybody for the 2 parking spots, and then walk from their car to the restaurant. And I'm not sure why that is, but that's kind of the culture that we have. We'd rather drive somewhere for 15 minutes than just walk there in 10. Now, I do admit that some people do like to exercise and they make the time for it. I mean, I walk by the gyms and I see the window with everyone on the elliptical machines, but the thing is, it's about time and it's about energy. And I think for a lot of people here, it's hard to give those things up because we're so tired and busy that exercise kind of loses its priority. I mean, I think about myself, right? After work, exercise is probably the last thing I want to do. I'm so exhausted from the day, and when I get home, I have to watch my son and then give him a bath and put him to bed. That to think about exercising after that at like 8 p.m. at night is just way too much for me. And I used to exercise in the morning, but my son wakes up at 5 a.m. now, and there's just no time to exercise. And with making videos and other things, it's kind of, for me, has lost its priority over the months and years. And the thing is, if you look at the numbers, actually the more you make, the more you earn, it seems like the more time you have for physical activity. They reported that 36% of people making less than $25,000 a year have zero physical activity, whereas if you earn $75,000 or more per year, that group, 18% of them has zero physical activity. So it seems like the more money that you make, the more time that you have, and part of that time you can then give to your physical health. And that makes sense because the more financial freedom or financial resources you have, ideally you'd have more time for leisure. But then at the same time, a lot of it comes to prioritization and what do you actually prioritize? And that's something that, again, each person has to figure out for themselves. And if you made it this far into the video, thank you. And now I want to talk about kind of how I lost all this weight. And again, it wasn't like it was that much, but I am pretty proud of myself. It's actually what kind of earned me this camera that I'm filming on. It's a new camera I'm trying out. And I told myself I bought it, but I wouldn't be able to use it until I lost a certain amount of weight. And I tried and I kind of hit these plateaus, but I am pretty proud of myself. It took me a while. I could have probably gotten a lot faster, but it was a good process. I did intermittent fasting, which if you're not familiar with that, it's where you kind of limit the amount of time that you're able to eat per day. So I did the 16-hour and 8-hour. So 16 hours of no eating with just an 8-hour window to be able to eat. And basically what that meant for me was kind of a late breakfast, kind of a brunch, as well as a very early dinner to be able to make that cutoff. I should also mention that this is not medical advice, and if you're planning on trying this yourself, definitely go talk to your PCP. And I didn't really change too much of what I was eating. It wasn't so much the quality of the food, but what it did was it just cut overall calories. And if you think about that, that makes sense, right? You accumulate less calories and you're just gonna lose weight over time. Now, I will admit that I did stall out a couple of times at about 132 pounds, and I was stuck there for almost a month, but eventually I lost the weight and I passed the 130-pound mark. And I also understand that weight loss does not equal being healthy. I know that you just don't lose weight and all of a sudden you're healthy. But I think more importantly, what it did for me was it was an accomplishment. It was something that I really wanted to do. And I worked hard. I mean, I didn't work out, but I worked hard and I was able to get it after a certain period of time. And of course, I now get to use this fun camera. And all that to say is that it's hard to not get fat in Hawaii. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and aloha.